Welcome back to Big Mouth and welcome to Wednesday's edition of the dceu Daily. Now, from the moment that J.J. Abrams bought into Warner Media and got this exclusive kind of production package, there was only one motivating factor. It was DC and Superman. Now, the rumours of him making his own Superman ever since he arrived at Warner Media have been running hot all over the internet. Now, we know he's doing Justice League Dark. We know he's going to be doing other DC projects, but he will make his own Superman film. There's no question about that. You know, J.J. Abrams is one of the many reasons we're getting this multiverse strategy from Jim Lee and Walter Hamada, because J.J. Abrams, as Matt Reeves wanted to do, is to have his own actor as Superman, create his own Superman universe. So that is what's going to happen. It's going to happen. Now, you'll get people, basic saying, wait until it's official, wait until it's official. It will be official sooner rather than later. But make no mistake, J.J. Abrams will write and direct his own Superman movie. Now, according to Geek Vibes Nation from another source, they said that he's actively looking for someone to write the script alongside him. Now, I questioned their source and they said, we've checked this out and this is definitely happening. And I believe it. And I don't need someone to draw me a picture and I don't need to hear it from J.J. Abrams or Warner Media. This is going to happen. This will be an original take on Superman and it won't be Henry Cavill. It will be his own Superman. He's going to do his own thing. J.J. Abrams isn't going to want to do a Man of Steel sequel, a Man of Steel 2 or whatever you want to tag it as. He's going to want to do his own thing with his own actor. That's quite right. Just like Matt Reeves wanted to do. So this is going to happen. Now, of course, there's something else that can happen realistically here. It may not, but he may actually bring back Nicolas Cage. Nicolas Cage is rumoured to be in Andy Muschietti's Flashpoint. But even cooler, we actually could get a Superman and Batman movie starring Michael Keaton and Nicolas Cage, directed by Tim Burton. I believe behind the scenes, these talks are happening, right? Not a Batman versus Superman, but something where they're on the same team, something very exciting. Because this was the plan originally from Tim Burton to create his own DC cinematic universe, first with, Michael Keaton's Batman and Nicolas Cage's Superman. This is why he was developing his own Superman. And that would have been an awesome situation and something that's quite tragic that didn't happen. A lot of people saying to me, it would have been a mess, it would have been a mess. That Superman costume looked awful. All you saw was a costume in pre-visualization, something they'd just thrown together, and he was wearing it, as Tim Burton said in the Snap, the late great Snap's autobiography. Well, it's a documentary, isn't it? I was trying to pull out a name there, trying to sound cool. A documentary, right? What's his first name? Snap. He was a great geek and he died. Anyway, so it's all there. So the Tim Burton Superman film would have been awesome. It really would have been. And it's something that I would have loved to have seen and still love to have seen. So what this multiverse strategy does is things like this. It won't just be one size fits all. Everyone gets to play in their own sandpit. And we'll talk about what Zack Snyder had to say about this, because there's an article and some quotes which I'll read out to you a little bit later on, very shortly. And so J.J. Abrams is going to make his own Superman movie and cast his own Superman. There's no question about that. And with him apparently rumoured to be looking for a scriptwriter right now, that is very, very exciting news. And, there's so many things going to happen here because of the multiverse strategy, including a Constantine 2, a Constantine sequel starring Keanu Reeves as well. Listen, so many exciting things now. It's going to be the greatest hits. Anything you've ever fantasized about in the DC universe will happen, and it'll be awesome. Now, this is quite interesting as well. Now, we discussed this yesterday. Zack Snyder wants to write a comic book where Jim Lee draws Joker killing Robin. Now, sarcastically, a comic book writer said, where's that happened before? We know it's happened in the comics before, but this is something a little bit different. Now, yesterday I lost my shit because there was hints about Zack doing comics to finish off his Snyderverse instead of making more movies and more content, which I don't want. But this article talks about Zack doing it as well as making the films, and I love that idea because I love comics. It's not about not liking comics. I don't want a live-action universe to be finished off in the comics. And quite frankly, nobody does. And before we read this out, by the way, I heard something else that we're getting this IMAX version of Batman vs. Superman Dawn of Justice, but it's not the Ultimate Edition. It's the theatrical cut. Now, I don't know if this is true, but I've seen the theatrical cut once. Once you've seen the Ultimate Edition, you can't see the fucking theatrical cut. I'm sorry. It just doesn't work. I can't watch that anymore. It just looks like a jigsaw without all the pieces, right? So hopefully this is not true, and he's actually he's working on the Ultimate Edition for IMAX. If he's not, that's really disappointing. Zack Snyder wants to write a comic where Jim Lee draws Joker killing Robin. Zack Snyder recently revealed ambitions to partner with Jim Lee on a comic that tells a post-apocalyptic story focusing on the Joker killing Robin by Astrid Sparks. Zack Snyder discussed his possible plans to work with Jim Lee on a comic book where the Joker kills Robin as part of the DC Extended Universe. The conversation originally took place on a live stream interview with Chris Wong Svensson and Dave Pienaar, where Snyder was asked whether his Justice League would tie into other DC manifestations in the future, such as comics. Snyder explained that he has had ongoing conversations with Jim Lee, a chief creative officer and publisher of DC, about building a comic book from some of the scenes and ideas from the movie in order to tell the story of the Joker killing Robin. Now that's exciting. I would love to do a comic book. The post-apocalyptic nightmare world. The world has fallen. The ragtag team that's left alive trying to put it back, Snyder said. Inside of that story, we would also do that story of Joker killing Robin. The Joker is somehow involved in the stealing of the mother box and using it to create the treadmill. Cyborg is going to do the math. This is what we're going to have to do to jump back in time and warn Bruce correctly. A lot of the conflict would be Bruce reliving the death of Robin and what went into that. What's interesting about all of that is that something we're going to see in Zack Snyder's Justice League, or is this kind of a fill-in-the-blank situation with a comic book? I'm not sure. This arc would use established scenes from Snyder's Batman vs. Superman Dawn of Justice in a future where the tyrannical Darkseid has won. The Flash, Joker and Batman would be involved in the battle to rectify the past to save the future. Snyder's films are known for a dramatic technicolor violence, making it clear to the audience that there are real stakes behind the often unbelievable circumstances the fight scenes use. Extensive zooms and slow motion, such as in 300 and Sucker Punch, to emphasize his character's skills and brutality. It's unclear how explicit Snyder plans to be with the death of Robin, considering the idea is still in the early stages. It's not been nailed down. This is not a definitely being happening thing in development. It's something they've discussed. It's clear that Snyder he wants to build a kind of big thing outside of the films as well as inside of the films for the Snyderverse. So having comic books alongside those movies would be awesome, but they should never come instead of live action. That's my point. The director added, I don't think anything is going to happen right away, but Jim and I talked about it quite a bit. It's interesting when I read this out to you yesterday, it seems certain quotes about whether or not he'll get another movie and it not happening right away. It looks like here he wasn't talking about the next live action entry into the Snyderverse, but a comic book. So that's interesting. I don't think anything's going to happen right away, but Jim and I talked about it quite a bit and talked a lot about maybe doing a book or a comic book down the road to kind of finish this. I don't want, that's not what I want, Zach. And I know that sounds selfish, that's not what I want, boo-hoo, I'm a big baby. Maybe you lot would prefer a comic instead of a live action movie. But no way does this get finished in a comic book. In no way am I buying this if this is instead of live action. Maybe doing a book or comic book down the road to kind of finish this. We haven't locked anything yet. However, from Snyder's comments, it is clear that Robin's death will be founded. What the fuck is this word? I've not heard of this word. Foundational element of the project. Even just the death of Robin in that world would make a nice little one-off. Justice League stars Ben Affleck is blah, 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 blah. I don't know why they have to tell us that. Just makes the article boring. Anyway. That's something we kind of went through yesterday. I don't want to talk about it too much. If it's as well as the live action and we get more Snyderverse movies or mini-series and things like that on HBO Max or even in movie theatres, I'm up for that. The comic books alongside with that is kind of like merchandise. That's a fun thing to do, to create a big kind of tentpole around the live action Snyderverse. But instead of the live action Snyderverse, no thank you. This is kind of exciting to get Zack Snyder's thoughts about Jim Lee's and Walter Hamada's multiverse strategy. This is what he had to say. Well, frankly, I just love that they decided to kind of embrace their personality. I think there was always this sort of criticism the middle step. What's the middle step, Trying to be like Marvel, trying to do your own thing. Like, what are you going to do? But I think now it's kind of locked into this very specific trajectory where I think, and I hope the idea is that it's filmmaker first, which is basically what the multiverse allows for the filmmaker first. And then here's the character bringing the characters together. I like that idea. And I hope that too. But I also kind of got to be very careful here where we say it's all about the filmmaker and they should get every single thing they want. And the people in charge, like Walter Hamada and Jim Lee, have to stay silent. No, this is a partnership and everyone should get what they want, not just one entity. That's my opinion. So anyway, Snyder was then asked if he had any involvement with Ezra Miller's Flash cameo on the CW series, The Flash, to which he said no. But I think it's more symbolic, frankly. And if and when they do the Flashpoint movie, where they are doing the Flashpoint movie, I think that concept to me is that symbolic acknowledgement that there are separate worlds on one track. You can love this Flash or you can love that Flash, and you don't need to fight about it. It allows them to exist at the same time. I think that was, to me, it symbolises a way to say it's okay. We're going to have this world where there's all these storylines going on at the same time. Exactly, Zack Snyder, exactly. It's incredibly exciting. Whether you're excited about the MCU doing it or the DC Extended Universe, done properly, this could be an expansive, exciting shared universe. And I'm so down for it. So anyway, he goes on. Even when I was doing Man of Steel, Batman v Superman and Justice League, there were DC animated films that had nothing to do with what we were doing, and there were DC TV shows that had nothing to do with what we were doing. And it's jumped. Right, let's start again. I'm sorry about that. Avoid the direct. Even when I was doing Man of Steel and Batman v Superman, Justice League, there were DC animated films that had nothing to do with what we were doing. There were DC TV shows that had nothing to do with what we were doing. And there was no way to seam those up without alienating a giant fandom by saying your Flash doesn't count or your animated show doesn't mean anything. Exactly, Zach. And some people in our fandom, your fandom, do act like that. And that's not good. So anyway, Zack Snyder ended by bringing the dialogue back to Marvel's and DC's live-action history. I think that Marvel, they've built their universe over a long period of time. So by the time they got to their later movies, everything had kind of locked in and it was all sort of moving in the same direction. But that was just never going to happen with DC because the DC TV shows were so popular and because their animated shows were so popular. I mean, that was a success that they had. And Christopher Nolan's movies sort of had another tone and another universe. So there was no way that those things were going to ever, okay, we're going to say those things don't exist now. And it's this. And I think that there was that thinking for a while. But I'm glad that it kind of settled into a much more diverse approach. And I agree. And I think that's the end of his... Is it the end of his quotes? Let's have a look. Make sure. Zach's quoted so much in the past week. I don't know where I'm coming or going. But anyway, he's a supporter of the multiverse strategy. Of course he is. He's back in the pie. He's back with Warner Media. And that's why he doesn't want to leave that party or that group again. He's part of this now. And, look, Zack Snyder's Justice League will be a successful streaming milestone. There's no question about that. And you all know why. This is not something where a few people fought for and wanted are going to watch. Yeah, the Snyderverse fandom is important. In fact, Zack said we're a powerful group of people after raising so much money for suicide prevention the other day on all these streams. A beautiful thing. And I'm always a big supporter of that. But ultimately for me, it's about the movies and the TV shows. and the animated stuff and the comics. I love DC. It's something, DC is something that kept me going when I was suicidal, depressed. In fact, this is not a great Christmas for me, just me and my dad. No Christmas dinner because I can't cook. My mum's been gone over a year. She cooked a beautiful Christmas dinner. It's not easy, but I know a lot of people out there have got it worse. And people, 50, 60, 100 years ago had it much worse than us, much worse than COVID. And I understand that. But anyway, getting back to the subject, I like what he's saying. This is very, very good. And there's always nuance in what Zach says, and I like that. What he's basically saying, in the past, it's been, my Flash is the real Flash. No, my Superman. Christopher Reeve's the better one. No, Henry Cavill is. No, it's Batfleck. No, it's Keaton. No, some people may like George Clooney. I don't know why, but not even George Clooney likes George Clooney's Batman. But you know what I mean, right? Everyone has the versions they love. Well, what the multiverse strategy is, and what Zach's trying to say with his nuance, is that now they're doing this. Everyone's favourite Batman, everyone's favourite Flash or Superman is part of the DC Extended Universe. It's all part of this one multiverse where the walls are crashing down, where they can cross over and be together. And that's great. And yes, directors should come first, Zach, but this is a very exciting moment where the old dark days of self-contained movies are going to go. Of course, there'll be some self-contained movies, and that's right and proper, and that's fun. But having the potential of having Nicolas Cage, who's Superman, who we've actually never seen in live action, or he's never made an official movie in live action, and Michael Keaton's Batman in a film together, right? That could be awesome. And there's so many graphic novels where they're together, where you could do that. And I know that. So, this is a very exciting time to be a Marvel fan and to be a DC fan, especially to be a fan of the DC Extended Universe, because everything in the multiverse, doesn't matter what version, what movie, whatever came before the DC Extended Universe, is all part of one franchise now. And that's really, really exciting. So the arguments will always be there. We're fans, we're dumb, we're stupid. We're always going to have this banter and this intolerance of each other. And that's fine if it doesn't cross the line. But yeah, I'm really glad that Zach has referenced the multiverse strategy, because as you all know, ever since it was officially announced on Fandom, and I still can't believe they said it out loud, I can't believe what we're heading for. Something truly exciting. Remember, you can follow me on Twitter and tag me on Twitter at Movies TV Mad with questions, article suggestions, video topics, information. Maybe you're an unofficial small-time scooper and you want your scoop here on Big Mouth or on the DCEU Daily, whatever. I will shout you out. If you want your name kept a secret, that's fine. And I'll say it here, of course. Obviously, I'll always say take it with a pinch of salt, but we'll discuss what you've got. So anything you want, and I'll give you a shout-out if you want your name mentioned. Just like Scott Edwards yet again. He's got some beautiful Diggle artwork here. At Movies TV Mad, call artwork of Diggle as Green Lantern with the other Arrowverse heroes. I really hope we get to see Diggle's friendship with these other characters develop when he appears on their shows. It's going to be very cool, and I'm excited. And here's the artwork. So we've got Diggle in the middle, we've got Superman, we've got the Flash, we've got Supergirl, we've got White Canary, and I think we've got Batwoman at the top there, above Diggle. Nobody's above Diggle. So thank you for that, Scott. Some brilliant artwork, and he has a question. Sorry, lots of technical difficulties today with my device, because my devices are rubbish. Anyway, at Movies TV Mad, and my official question for tomorrow's DCEU Daily, what do you think the story of Wonder Woman 3 will be? And is the Snyderverse still canon in the timeline? And how will that story continue? Oh, they're good questions. They're good questions. Thank you. So, what will be the story in Wonder Woman 3? Well, I think it's the worst kept secret. It's going to be a modern story. Now, she clearly was working on something that was non-COVID related. And because it's going to be in the modern world, she probably wants to, unfortunately, because this is modern day Hollywood and they want to have timely discussions, it's probably going to have people wearing masks. But hopefully, by the time this film gets into development, and I know I'm a dreamer, and I know I'm not the only one. Did someone do a song about that? I think they did, yeah? But, yeah, hopefully COVID isn't a thing by the time she starts this movie. And whatever she's saying publicly, she will start this movie. And when this is all over, Warner Brothers will release the movies in theatres exclusively like the old release window. It's going to go back to the way it was, right? So no one needs to worry about it. So she'll be back for sure. But what is the story going to be? I think, as I say, I believe she will involve one of the DCEU characters, and I don't know who. I personally think, as a gift to Henry Cavill for being stitched up in Justice League, I would love, because we've seen Batman and Wonder Woman together. They spend a lot of time together, not a lot of time, but more screen time than Wonder Woman and Superman do in BVS. And I just think it would be awesome if this could be a shared story or involve him, like, Taika Waititi involved the Hulk, Bruce Banner, in Thor Ragnarok. I think that would be great. And I think most of us would love a relationship to be developed. Maybe not a romantic one, but a close friendship at first between Henry Cavill's Superman and Gal Gadot's Wonder Woman. Even though I like you hate Justice League, but it's great when he first comes back alive and she's calling him Kal-El and she's trying to reach him emotionally. I like that. I think that's cool. So I love Wonder Woman and Superman stories. When they're together, it's great, even when they're not having like a relationship. But the love triangle between her, Batman, and Superman is so much fun, both dramatically and in terms of humour as well. And so I believe that could be a thing. She has been asked if she would bring any of the other DCEU characters into it. And she said it would have to help the story. And I'm sure there's a story there where Superman could be involved. Would she want to do it? I don't know. But I think it's going to be very relevant. It looks to me she may go with a very COVID-relevant story because she's that kind of filmmaker. So that's something that could happen. Now, then we have to ask ourselves, can Wonder Woman catch COVID? If we're going to go this way, I'm not saying we're going this way, just a little thought and theory as you asked me, Scott, what I think they could do. And this is just a possibility. Of course, I don't know. But can Kal-El, the last son of Krypton, get COVID? Can Wonder Woman from the Amazon get COVID? I don't know. You tell me. Comment down below or tag me on Twitter at Movies TV Man. Do we think that Wonder Woman or Superman can get COVID, right? What about Green Lantern when he's wearing his costume? Can he? I mean, he's a human being. So these are interesting elements to look at. And there is some interesting COVID stories you can tell. I mean, I've written one myself, or I'm in the middle of writing one called COVID Man, a very interesting story about humanity leaving Earth for a new world because of COVID, because the Earth has become unlivable. It can, capitalism cannot be sustained anymore. People cannot be looked after. So anyway, we're not here to put, market or, stitch my stories. Anyway, so it could be a real world COVID story, and that could be very interesting. Now, then Scott asks about the Snyderverse, which obviously is one of my favourite subjects when we talk about DC. So where are we? And is the Snyderverse still canon in the timeline? And how will that story continue? Right. I think from what Patty Jenkins said earlier, and she's been very blatant about a lot of things, hasn't she? And this is one thing she stood firm on. She stood firm on. She said that all the DCEU directors, as we discussed last week or the week before, threw out Justice League, which basically means, Scott, yes, the Snyderverse is canon, no question. Now, moving forward is the most important thing because Zack's been very coy about him doing more. He clearly wants to, but he can't just come out and say, I'm going to do more, foregone conclusion, it's going to be successful. And respectful people and intelligent people like Snyder wouldn't do things like that. So I think it will live on. It is canon. And I think, as I predicted, and most of us predicted months ago, this will continue via HBO Max. I think it's the only way. I think Zack Snyder makes certain types of movies and stories. And my point in the end of this video, which is coming very shortly, don't worry, hang around, because I've got an interesting thing to talk about the Martha moment and how Zack Snyder works within the DC Extended Universe. But yeah, HBO Max is the right place, Scott and everyone else, just to get these stories continuing. There is an audience for the Snyderverse, not just to do a few stories and wrap up his original arc, but to carry on and expand this thing, all on HBO Max, and there's no reason why they wouldn't want that to continue. So it will continue. It will continue via HBO Max. Now, this means Flashpoint centrally in the cinematic universe is going to change a bit. Again, we're a bit blind at the moment. We don't actually know when Barry fixes Flashpoint what's going to stay changed or what's changed because of that fixing of Flashpoint. Because this is what happens in the comics. Certain things don't change back or stay a little bit different. This is what's going to happen in the DC Extended Universe in a more dramatic fashion. So until we've seen Flashpoint or we've got a clue what they're planning, we really don't know how the Snyderverse or the rest of the DC Extended Universe fits in. But of course, Scott, that's what keeps the conversations going, and I love that. And finally today, and this is not about me getting at anyone, but there was someone who was debating with me, Batman versus Superman, who was complaining that the Martha moment is too subtle. Well, first of all, Zack Snyder is a very subtle filmmaker, but as I was trying to explain to him, and he wasn't having it, by the way, and he's entitled to his opinion, he said it was too subtle. Now, is the Martha moment too subtle? Well, let me kind of take you back to where I was in the cinema, watching this moment for the first time. And, when Clark's saying, he's going to kill Martha, save Martha. So when I'm watching this, my understanding is what's going on in Bruce's mind right now, because don't forget, he's very angry. He's about to kill Superman. He's probably thinking, what the fuck is he talking about? My mother's already dead. Who the fuck is Martha? And he says that. How do you know that name? But to me, in Bruce's mind, and this is me not watching it again and again, these were my initial thoughts. He's thinking, is he talking about my mother? Did my mother not die after all? Everything's going around in his head. This is how I saw it. So it's not that subtle. It's not that subtle. And ultimately, when Amy Adams, Lois Lane, runs in and says, that's his mother's name, there's a moment of clarity for Bruce Wayne where he realizes, and a lot of people have said this, I think it's damn obvious, that this is a guy with a mother, with a name. An ordinary human mother. And she has my mother's name. That means if he ever lost her, he'd be as angry and as devastated as I am. Why am I killing this person? Right? And he falls in that actually he's about to kill a good person. Yes, Clark can be dangerous in the right type of circumstances. Batman is right. Lex Luthor's right. He can be dangerous, as we see what happens in Nightmare Future. Controlled by the wrong person, Cal can be very dangerous to mankind. To humankind, should I say. There's no question about that. So that section of the argument in BVS is very, very true. But I never felt that moment was so subtle. I didn't understand it. And then this guy was saying, they shouldn't have become such friends straight away, and they should have done a world's finest. By the way, that's what I think Ben Affleck and Michael Keaton's Batman and Superman are going to do. Looking forward to that. Lots of, potential in the multiverse strategy. But yeah, to me, and then you get this argument that really grates on me that it was too rushed, and there should have been a Batman versus Superman 2. There should have been BVS should have been in 2 parts. Well, guess what, everyone? BVS is in 2 parts. Batman vs. Superman, Dawn of Justice, and Zack Snyder's Justice League. Yes, the second part of the story and of BVS is Zack Snyder's Justice League. So, in fact, it does come in 2 parts. And then originally there was supposed to be Justice League 2, maybe even 3. So, there was no rushing about this. People look at the MCU and they see Iron Man. They see Black Widow. They see the Hulk. They see all the other characters, right? Captain America, all given movies before they team up. But what you've got to also remember is that Marvel were doing superhero movies where, yes, we had Superman Returns. Yes, we had Green Lantern. Yes, we had the Dark Knight trilogy going around that time. But what Marvel were doing was a franchise. And to be honest with you, in the early days of the MCU, no one gave a shit apart from a few Marvel fans. It was only until they did Avengers, the first Avengers, Avengers Assemble, that everyone went mad and, hyped up the MCU. It's from that moment onwards, the MCU became this cultural phenomenon, right? So they were under no pressure before that. And so this is why they could take their time. So when Man of Steel started, Kevin Sujihara, the then CEO, said to himself, we can't take our time. We've got to catch up with them. He was looking at it from the audience's mind. Who's got the biggest one? Do you know what I mean? Who's doing the best franchise? And of course, because of that rushing, and you see, when I say rushing, I don't agree with these people that say Man of Steel, doing Man of Steel, BVS, Justice League, Wonder Woman in the middle is a rush situation. Suicide Squad, I don't think that's rushed. I think those films under Zack Snyder, if he was left alone, were actually perfect. Man of Steel, Batman versus Superman, Suicide Squad, Wonder Woman, Justice League. I mean, you've got 4 movies before Justice League. That's more than enough. And they're actually tying everything in within those movies before Justice League. Now, Wonder Woman would have been slightly different if it wasn't to the reaction of Suicide Squad and BVS anyway. There would have been more of kind of hints and clues to what was going to happen in Justice League. So Zack was actually setting up something so inclusive, something so shared, an interconnected universe, but he wasn't allowed to do it. And when he was pushed out, they changed the frameworks, especially Wonder Woman, especially Aquaman, which were going to be shared movies. And they were going to be even more awesome than they already are. So, in my opinion, nothing was rushed. So when I hear this about the DC Extended Universe being rushed, I think it's utter nonsense. But to say that the Martha moment is too subtle, but this is the problem with modern audiences. They want everything explaining, everything spoon-fed. Then this guy was saying, oh, you know what? There should have been a moment where Clark finds out, the names of Bruce Wayne's parents. And I think, well, that's ridiculous because it's more for the audience to know the names, I suppose. But, at the beginning of the film, Thomas Wayne's dying and he says, Martha. So we know what's going on. And Clark doesn't need to know those names because he's dying on the floor. It's not about Clark knowing the names or knowing what's going on. At that moment, it's all about Superman about to die, him saying they're going to kill Martha, and Bruce Wayne having this moment of, this moment of understanding and realizing that Superman is indeed a good person and he shouldn't be doing this to him. It's all about Bruce Wayne more than Superman at that moment. So Clark doesn't actually need to know their names. That's nonsense. That's something that can happen on screen at a later date. So the criticisms towards the Martha moment are still the most balmiest thing ever. But as I said many times to all of you, Batman vs Superman and Man of Steel, the whole of the Snyderverse is different. It's made in a very different way than other comic book movies. People don't like different. People try to tear different down. He told his truth, his story. And just because you don't like something being done in that different way doesn't make it bad, doesn't make it too subtle, and doesn't make it rushed. Comment down below, like, share and subscribe, and I'll be back tomorrow with even more DCEU Daily. See you again soon.